Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on when you're watching this. For me, it's afternoon. It's about 1:30 in the afternoon. It is a Tuesday. And I really want to share some stories with you. Some of the success stories the staff at the museum has seen and that I've seen. We have been providing a lunch program at the museum. Again, it was precipitated by the staff who came to the board because we had some homeless people that were coming to the museum here in New Martinsville, West Virginia. And we have coffee there made during the cold weather. And of course, we have free Wi Fi, um, which we learned to turn off at night. Tip for any of you that have Wi Fi hotspots, turn it off at night. Anyway, um, in conversations with people that were on the streets, and it was getting cold, it was late November. And Holly uh, was talking with one of them, and Robbie was there also, and asked them about the cold. How do you deal with the cold? I personally could not deal with the cold, even though I like cold weather. I wouldn't want to be out sleeping in the snow, to be honest with you. And they said the cold wasn't as tough to deal with as the hunger was. Well, the compassion wells up, and I get this phone call, and I said, "Well, we have to take it to the board." I said, "We cannot use our own funds, and we do not use our own funds for the lunch program. It is totally community supported. So, thank you to all the people in our community who show up with either prepared lunches, prepared sandwiches, uh, boxes of chips, apple juices, juice boxes, cookies, all sorts of what you would put in a child's lunch type of items they bring to the museum. So the community, we owe a huge debt of gratitude to them because I think at the last reckoning I saw, we have prepared over 12,000 lunches. And we have volunteers that come in that bag them every day. We're at this point where we've um, got the average. It is 60 a day. So they prepare 60 lunches a day. Um, and it's pretty can be pretty overwhelming at times if you look at those total numbers, but day by day it's not too bad. I'm not down there all the time, down there periodically, but I've also got to know the people that hang out. Um, and probably half of them are drug addicts. Um, Having said that, I had a drug addict as a father. It wasn't his drug of choice was alcohol, but he was an alcoholic. He died at the age of 41 from cirrhosis because his addiction took his life. I've lost a nephew to an overdose, probably a combination of pills and alcohol. I have a niece that, praise God, recognized she had an issue. Hers was due to pain pills, and she went through a treatment program and is now doing just absolutely wonderful. And I have another relative that struggles every day with addiction. So I know how widespread it is. And I can't even think of the number of friends who have lost loved ones to these addictions. I'm getting a kind of glare there from the. Let me move this way, see if that helps any. I don't know. Getting a glare off my eyeglasses. There you go. That's better. So, anyway, to continue this, and as part of doing the lunch program, there have been some issues we've had to deal with. We have had to lock down the caboose. I'm going to be very brutally honest as I can on this video for you. We've had to remove people from sleeping there. Um, we've had to tell people you can't hang out down here. You got to leave. I found them sleeping under the caboose one time. Found them sleeping on the back edge of the caboose one time. I've gone down there and babysat while the lunches were being handed out so that people weren't coming by and taking 15 instead of the 2 that they are allowed. Having said that, even though half of them are addicts, the other half are people who are homeless or children. And I'm going to share a couple of those stories and some of the success stories that we have seen just in a year's time because a couple people decided that they wanted to be compassionate and help their fellow man. Now, when it was brought to the board well, it was unanimous. There was no issue as long as it was a public supported effort because we cannot use our funds for that. Um, One story I want to tell you about is I'll call her a young lady, but she's in her 70s who came to us a few months into the program, and she would show up just as lively as she could be, and love talking with her when I do get to see her and I'm down there. And she first 2 or 3 times I saw her, she said, "Man, I wish you'd been here when I was living in my car." Now, this woman's in her early 70s and lived in her car for 10 months. She lived in a camper. Last I knew, she was living in the garage of a friend. Somebody created a space for her to live there. I've had people ask me why she doesn't get public assistance. I don't have all those answers. I know that she told me she gets $15 a month in food assistance, and that's it. So it may be such a thing that she's getting a minimum Social Security that puts her over the list for other assistance. I really don't know. I don't have an answer for that. But she's not the first older woman that I have heard tell me they only get like $15, $20 a month. So I'm not sure what's up with the system. There's something there that needs fixed. Um, they had a mother that came in. Again, I had just happened to be there that day. It was, we had the lunches inside the museum that day, and she came in and she said to me, "Do you have lunches here or food here that you hand out to people that are hungry?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, and I explained it to her, and I said, "How'd you hear about us?" Well, her children had been hungry the night before, and she didn't have anything. She had 3 kids. She didn't have anything in the house to feed them. And they told her that they had heard at school that you could go to the museum and they would give you a lunch. So I gave her lunches that day for all of her kids. But those kind of stories really make me weep because we still have families that come by and pick up lunches. That's not that they're homeless, but they're hungry. So this program we have named Feed the Need. Um, because it is not just the homeless. But even if you are an addict and you are homeless, if you were my child, I'd want someone to give you something to eat. That's the least that we can do for one another. But I've heard all sorts of stories about how we are attracting out of towners. No, we're not, because I can honestly tell you, I know most of them that show up. When I do see a strange one, I pay attention because um, that has happened, and one of them happened to be a fugitive. A couple of them have caused us issues. We have one that um, I told him a few months ago he was on my list, and it wasn't a good list. Uh, he has since created more issues and had to be banned from the property. What we have done, though, is shed a light that there is a huge issue in our community. It's not just our community. Other areas of the country have large homeless populations. But also through this, what has happened is the Wheeling Coalition for the Homeless has got in touch with us. And we have a couple of success stories there of people that have We have been able to hook up with those services. They weren't aware of them, and we've called and we've made the appointments. They have come down and uh, dealt with them. Um, one, I'm going to go to my list now so I can share some of these with you because I was in a conversation last night. Again, an issue came up of um, someone thinking that because we have a lunch program that we are attracting people from out of town, and nothing could be further from the truth. Now, I'm not saying that if they happen to be here, they don't stop by, but we know them. We've got to know these are not strangers that we're dealing with, people. These are kids, young adults, older people, families in our own community um, that need a little hand up, a little help. You know, the court of public opinion can ruin a lot of things. So I want to share these success stories so that you understand that a little bit of kindness and compassion can go a long way towards solving some of the severe issues we have. Don't get me wrong, I don't think we're going to solve them all because if it's an addict, they're going to have to make that decision themselves. We can encourage, we can do all sorts of things. I personally believe that Jesus is the answer to those ills. But if they don't see Jesus in me, they're probably not going to see him anywhere else, unless someone else comes into their life who also displays Jesus to them. Um, but for a while, I know many of them felt what's the word? Ignored. Like people wouldn't even look them in the eye. But I know that I've had this issue on my prayer list for at least 5 years, maybe longer, probably longer. And there are groups that are starting up here that are really attacking this issue. Take Action Ohio Valley, another one that did We Do Recover. It's a guy that has recovered himself and wants to help other people. So it's a large issue, and we're not going to solve it all at once, but just little things can go a long way. One of them was a homeless elderly man. He was out of his medication and his medical supplies when we first ran into him at the museum, and they facilitated helping him get his medical supplies, got him into a shelter out of town. He is currently employed as a contractor remodeling a line of chain stores throughout Pennsylvania and Ohio. He was homeless. Young lady that was bright and engaging and just a total mystery to me. She had some home issues. And after a while on the street, dealing with us, being treated by like a human being, she reconciled with her family and is back to becoming the outstanding citizen I believe she can believe that she can be for us. Um, I had a young man who was a heavy drug user. He was in and out of trouble with the local law enforcement. We were able to get him into a shelter in Wheeling again last year. Haven't had an update, but he's also not back here and not being trouble for our local police. We have a young man that his girlfriend and had an infant child. They were living on the street. Again, Wheeling Coalition for the Homeless. We got them hooked up. They're living in an apartment in Wheeling. We have another young man, uh, drug addict. He's now currently in rehab. We did have one that relapsed. There was a young man that we got him a job. He was clean for, oh, I don't know what that was. He was clean for several months, and he ended up relapsing, but that's going to happen. Had another young man that ended up being in the hospital for several months, major heart issues. He and his girlfriend, they're not homeless, but they do struggle and they are hungry. I saw them not too long ago in a local church, very happy in their new church family. So, another success story. I told you about the elderly woman. Another young man we met, uh, he was helping us out for a while, um, sleeping out on the ground. We gave him some odd jobs to do, and he is currently full-time employed and has his own vehicle that he has been able to finance. Um, we have another issue that came to light. Um, child neglect was suspected, reported, because of the interactions with through the lunch program. CPS investigated, and some children are now out of a very bad home situation. Um, Even though you hate that that has to happen, uh, I pray that that turns out as a success story for the children. They were in a very bad way. Those are just a few that I can share with you, but as you can see, in about a year's time, by engaging with those citizens who have been marginalized in our community, some real progress has been made. And I look forward to hearing what the other groups are doing. And to squelch all the rumors, no, the Acts Charitable Mission Church is not putting in a homeless shelter. And no, right now we have no plans to put in a homeless shelter. We don't have the infrastructure to support anything like that, not at this time. Um, and who knows how long it would be before anything like that would even come to fruition. But there are shelters around us. There's one in Parkersburg, there's one in Barnesville, there's one in Wheeling. Um, I believe we have a domestic violence shelter here. More than we need that, we need a drug treatment facility. There's a nice Unity Center up in Benwood that's a good example of that. But that is something that Take Action Ohio Valley is working on. So let's get behind them and support them also, as well as the other organizations. Uh, Another, what I call success story, is the Wetzel County Center for Children and Families moved down two doors from the museum, and they were able to put together a list of resources for these people that are struggling, and help hook us up with some of those. So, um, Jesus was crucified because of the court of public opinion. He hung out with those that were the least desirable in his day. Um, I don't know that they had drug addicts back then. I do believe they had drunkards. Uh, I do believe they had thieves. I do believe they had lots of things that we still have in this day and age. But Jesus hung out with them anyway, because they needed that message of hope. So, my prayer is that all of you who hear this, see this, become a message of hope for others. Thank you and have a blessed, blessed day.